Hey, everybody, welcome to Leaving CrazyTown with Finn and Sarah.
I'm Finn.
I'm Sarah, and we're just kind of processing everything that's happened in the last month around the holidays. And today's, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
It was the dog. That was Tula making an appearance.
Oh my God. All right. So we were going to discuss today choosing you, which is really what Co-Crazy Recovery is all about. It's really doing what's right for us. And the problem with the holidays, what we used to call the Bermuda Triangle, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and Finn's birthday's on the 1st, so it's really four things, is it's really hard to discern what am I doing that I really want around the holidays? What are some compromises I'm making that feel okay? Maybe I don't want to go to Aunt Jane's house, but I will because my husband wants to go there, or whatever the scenario is. And what's where I'm really dismissing my own needs and what I need, and I'm not really choosing what I want. Like, what's the real truth? And there's so many different kind of, there's Christmas Eve, there's getting together with this person or that person or family. So it can be challenging. So we're going to give an example or two. We don't know yet. We'll see how the time goes of the kind of confusion around how do I make a decision that's right for me and that's empowering for me. And yet sometimes we can doubt that decision. So Finn's going to give an example today of how he chose himself over the holidays. Take it away, bud.
My co-crazy. Yeah. So, excuse me. My story is about Christmas. In the past, before my wife died, we spent Christmas with her kids and her ex-husband, and the kids and I always agreed it was very awkward, and for various reasons.
It would be for various
and then
reasons.
When she died, we spent the next Christmas all together. So this was our second Christmas coming up, and I started to get this feeling early on, like I don't want to do Christmas at my house because I've done it at my house. I've had it at my wife's ex-husband's house, and it's been at my house, but the last few years it's been here. And right away, like months and months before Christmas, I was like, I don't want to do Christmas at my house. And I was
Feelings
like,
coming up.
yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
So I was avoiding the Christmas talk altogether. And, I started feeling anxious every time I was with the stepkids, because I was afraid Christmas was going to come up. And then Thanksgiving came and went. Nobody brought up Christmas. And I was like, this is either
the anxiety's
bad.
building.
It's like just building the anxiety. So I started writing about it because that's what I do when I, have fear. And I knew I was fearful of the topic coming up. And I started to realize that it's not that I didn't want to host Christmas. It was that I didn't want to have a combined Christmas with my wife's ex-husband and her kids. And I didn't know if this is normal or not, or should I do it? I had this whole thing like last year, their mom had just died. So, let's all be together and, we're all one big happy family, but it's just awkward. And I didn't want to. So as time, like the pressure was building, I ended up, nobody's bringing up Christmas. I finally got on my knees, asked for help, and I called my stepdaughter to talk to her about Christmas because she's the one that usually has the investment in what we're all doing. Right. And I just told her that I asked her what she was doing for Christmas, and she told me the schedule. She's going to do Christmas Eve with her dad and at his house. They were going to do Christmas at his house, and I was invited. I was her ride or die. I could go to and I had to tell her I didn't want to go. Because through the writing, I realized I just didn't want to have Christmas with him. And I did want to have it with the kids. So we planned a day for ourselves to have Christmas. And, as Christmas got closer, I started to think that, oh, maybe I do want to have Christmas with them.
Right.
And I had to sit with it. And really it was, even though my stepdaughter and stepson were fine, they think this is a good time for all of us to make a change. They want to spend time with their dad. When I'm around, he primarily talks to me. They want to have a relationship with him. They want to have a relationship with me. And we don't need to be one big group. We all have different experiences. And so I was like making up stories because of my fear and codependency that they probably wanted me to go. And then all of a sudden I started thinking I wanted to go to the Christmas with them. And I didn't. It was just, I wanted to not feel the uncomfortable feeling that I get
Yes.
when I choose myself in codependent situations. And,
Yes.
so ultimately I did nothing. I didn't say I'll come, I'll, whatever. I did Christmas the way I wanted to. And it was an absolute joy. I had a wonderful Christmas. And so that's my story of just walking through and choosing me. It wasn't easy. It wasn't comfortable. And even after doing it, like I felt very good after getting off the phone, but I still was uncomfortable,
Yes.
especially as Christmas
Yes.
approached.
Right.
Yeah. And I also was able to later have a conversation with their father when he was, a little concerned about how thinking I didn't like him or something. And I was able to tell him that I'm the one that's always reaching out. He never reciprocates. And that I'll talk about that another time, but that also opened
Yes.
up great conversations. And once I had the choice about Christmas, because I spoke my truth, I then didn't really care who was at Christmas.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
it's just weird how you dread something because you feel like you don't have a choice.
Right. That is so brilliant. It reminds me of, that whole saying about boundaries. Like when we set boundaries, people feel really uncomfortable or even guilty.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're
I felt
doubting.
guilty. Yeah.
Was that the wrong boundary? And it used to say in this book I'd read all the time, if you're feeling guilty, it means you're setting a good boundary. It's just new behavior. And it is going to feel uncomfortable. But you know what? The next time it doesn't feel as uncomfortable. So I think that's the message here, is that starting new behaviors doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. And it's all about what I talk about in the book all the time, just tolerating what's happening for you.
And I like how you said,
feelings.
I like how you said starting new behaviors doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. Let me just tell you, for me, it is extremely uncomfortable. It's
Absolutely.
It doesn't necessarily I'm just, I'm dying homeless and alone. As soon as I speak my truth, they're going to not like me. Every childhood fear and insecurity rises to the surface. And,
Yes. And like you said, though, which is brilliant, is then your mind, we're having the feeling, which is the discomfort. And what happens? Our mind wants it to go away. So our mind starts trying to make sense of
rationalizing.
Well, maybe I shouldn't do this, because our mind's trying to make us feel better. But again, just tolerating this discomfort, doing what's right for us, getting to the other side will make it easier every time. So the thing we're going to ask you guys to think about for the next couple of weeks is notice how you feel when you see your truth, which is, I want something different than what someone else might want. And just notice it. And notice what comes up around that, because seeing our truth is the hard part about choosing you, because it's going to be uncomfortable. And I don't want to give too many assignments, but think about kind of what it feels like, what makes it difficult to say no to someone. Think about what it feels like to say no and see if you can tolerate some feelings. Anything else, bud?
I was going to say that sometimes I don't notice that I want something different than someone else until the other person changes their mind to something I wanted. And then I'm like, oh, that's I don't allow myself to know it. And and then when someone else changes, if I really don't want to go meet somebody or something, but I say yes, and I'm afraid to, or I don't pause and I get into something and then they call and cancel and I get so excited about it. I'm like, oh, why didn't I just.
That was the other tool that you mentioned that's really good, is that you didn't react. You just didn't say anything. And sometimes not saying anything is a great tool, because you're not going to do something where you need to make an amend later. So pausing. Yeah.
And it is part of tolerating the feeling, just not acting on it. Just, I don't know.
Not needing to make it okay for the other people or you. It doesn't have to always be okay and feel comfortable.
Yeah. And 90% of the time when I'm trying to make it okay for the other person because I'm feeling uncomfortable thinking it's made up.
Yes.
They're not uncomfortable. I've made it up.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely. So much of the stuff about what we think other people thinking is made up. And we'll, I'm sure, talk about that in another episode.
So what are we going to do this week? We're choosing you. I'm
choosing you.
Me. You're choosing
me. We're choosing you. We're choosing me.
feel like that should be a
Choose
song.
yourself. Choose yourself. It reminds me of the comedy video we made, which we'll post later about Florida. Okay, we got to stop. We're leaving Crazy Town. We love you. Choose you this week.